Welcome to Stoic Love Lessons, where love embraces wisdom. Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a relationship, wondering what on earth is going on? You've been doing everything right, or so you thought, but she pulls away, grows distant, or seems dissatisfied no matter what you do. Let me stop you right there. The issue isn't that women are impossible to figure out. It's that you've been trying to navigate relationships without a compass. Society has fed men comforting myths and half-truths about what women want, but Stoicism teaches us to look at the truth as it is, not how we wish it to be. And the truth is this: if you want better relationships, you need to understand women's weaknesses, not to exploit them, but to master yourself, to become the man who commands respect, admiration, and desire. This isn't about manipulation, it's about wisdom, understanding human nature, and using that knowledge to create stronger connections and take control of your life. So, let's dive into 5 critical weaknesses that women won't admit they have, but you must master to become the man she can't resist. All right, are you ready? Let's dive in. Number 1. Emotional validation is her weakness. Let's start with a truth that might make you a little uncomfortable. Women are emotional creatures. And no, that's not an insult or a stereotype. It's a reality. Emotions shape how women see the world. They shape their decisions, their connections, and most importantly, their relationships. You can't get around that fact. You can't logic your way through it. You've got to understand it, or you're going to keep running into the same frustrating walls over and over again. And here's the secret. Most men completely miss that emotional validation is her secret weakness. It's the key to her heart. It's not some extra little bonus to throw in when things are going well. No, it's essential. Without it, you're just another guy in the background, forgettable, replaceable. But with it, you become the man she can't stop thinking about. Here's where most men mess this up big time. They assume that when a woman opens up and vents about her day, she's looking for someone to solve her problems. Makes sense, right? We're men. We see a problem and we want to fix it. It feels natural, but to her, you're missing the point entirely. She doesn't need a fix. She needs a listener. Let me break it down for you with a simple example. Picture this. She comes home frustrated because her boss didn't appreciate all the hard work she put in. Now, most guys go straight into solution mode. They say things like, "Don't let it bother you," or "Just ignore it." It seems logical, it seems helpful, but what she hears is something completely different. What she hears is, "Your emotions aren't important to me." Think about that for a second. You think you're helping her brush it off, but what you're really doing is dismissing how she feels, and that's a fast track to creating emotional distance. Now let's flip that. Instead of trying to fix it, you say something like this: "It sounds like you put in a lot of effort, and it's frustrating not to get the recognition you deserve." Boom. You've just validated her experience. You've made her feel seen. When a woman feels seen, her walls come down. She starts to feel safe with you, and she starts to feel connected to you. Here's the part most men don't understand. Validation isn't about agreeing with everything she says, and it's not about pretending she's always right. It's about acknowledging that her emotions are real to her, even if they don't make sense to you. Even if they feel exaggerated or irrational, they matter to her. And if you dismiss them, you lose her trust. Most men, whether they realize it or not, brush off women's emotions because they think it's too much. They think it's unnecessary drama. But here's what you need to know. The men who validate without judgment are the ones who gain trust, respect, and a deeper emotional connection. And look, this doesn't mean you have to sit there nodding at every little thing. It's not about being a yes man or losing your own sense of self. Validation is about showing her that you're strong enough to hold space for her emotions, that you're not going to run, shut down, or get defensive just because things get emotionally intense. Let me ask you something. When was the last time a woman in your life got upset over something that seemed small or insignificant to you? Maybe it was a rude comment from a friend or some minor inconvenience that threw off her day. Your instinct might have been to say, "You're overreacting," or "It's not that big of a deal." But what if instead you said this? "I can see why that would upset you. That sounds really frustrating." Do you see the difference? It's a small shift, but it changes everything. Suddenly, she feels like you're on her side, like you actually get it. And trust me, that feeling, it's rare for her. Most people don't take the time to truly acknowledge her emotions. Most people either brush them off or try to fix them. But when you are the guy who listens, who validates, who doesn't get thrown off by her emotional world, you become the man she trusts. And trust me, that kind of trust is more valuable than anything else. Now, let me make something very clear. Validation doesn't mean you lose your composure. It doesn't mean you let her emotions control you. Quite the opposite. It means you're calm, steady, and grounded enough to hold space for her emotions without letting them knock you off balance. A lot of guys hear this and think, "Man, this sounds too soft. I don't want to be some emotional sponge." But let me ask you this. What's stronger, dismissing her emotions and creating distance, or validating her emotions and building a connection that makes her want to be around you? Because here's the truth. Strength isn't about avoiding emotions. It's about facing them, both yours and hers, and knowing how to handle them with confidence. Let's take this a step further. Imagine she's venting about a disagreement with a friend. Most guys would jump in with advice, or worse, try to downplay the situation by saying something like, "I'm sure she didn't mean it that way." But instead, you say this, "It sounds like that conversation really hurt you. I can see why you'd feel that way." You've just passed a test most men don't even realize they're taking. She might not consciously think, "Wow, he gets me," but subconsciously, she starts to feel more connected to you. She starts to trust you more, respect you more, and desire you more. Why? Because you've shown her something rare. You've shown her that you're strong enough to understand her emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Most men crumble when faced with a woman's emotions. They either get defensive, shut down, or try to fix things as quickly as possible so they don't have to deal with it. But a truly strong man stays calm. He listens, he validates, and he responds with clarity and confidence. And that kind of man, that's the man who stands out. That's the man who earns her trust and respect. Now, don't mistake this for weakness. Being able to handle a woman's emotions isn't about being soft or submissive. It's about showing her that you're grounded in your own strength. Women want to know that you can handle them at their most vulnerable, that you're not going to crumble when things get intense. And when you do that, when you show her that you're different from the rest, that's when she starts to see you as someone she can rely on, someone she can respect. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being perfect. It's about being present, showing up, listening, and validating her emotions in a way most men never will. And trust me, when you master this, you're already miles ahead of the rest. Number 2, she's obsessed with being understood. Now that you understand how powerful emotional validation is, there's something deeper we need to talk about. It's not just about making her feel heard in the moment. It's about making her feel understood. And trust me, this goes way beyond listening to her words. A woman's deepest fear isn't being rejected, it's being invisible. When she says, "You don't listen to me," what she's really saying is, "You don't see me for who I am. You don't understand me." And that hits different, doesn't it? Because rejection stings, sure, but invisibility, feeling like the person who's supposed to know you best doesn't get you, that's soul-crushing. It makes her feel disconnected, unimportant, and eventually she'll pull away. Here's where it gets tricky. Most men don't even realize they're failing this test. They think they're being attentive. They're physically present. They hear the words coming out of her mouth, but they're not truly listening. They're waiting for their turn to speak. They're formulating a response, or worse, they're jumping straight into problem-solving mode. Let me give you a real-life example. She says, "I feel like my friend never respects my boundaries. She just takes advantage of me." Now, a typical guy response would be, "Why don't you just stop talking to her?" Or, "Maybe you're overthinking it. She probably doesn't mean it like that." So familiar, right? It's logical, it's practical, and guess what? It's also a fast track to her feeling completely misunderstood, because what she hears is, "I'm not interested in your emotions. I'm not interested in seeing the world from your perspective. I'm just here to fix it and move on." And that's the problem. You're trying to solve what she's feeling with logic, but emotions don't need to be solved. They need to be understood. Let me flip this around. Imagine she says the same thing again. "I feel like my friend never respects my boundaries. She just takes advantage of me." Now, instead of jumping to fix it, what if you said, "That sounds really frustrating. It's hard when someone you care about doesn't respect you." See the difference? It's not about agreeing or fixing. It's about reflecting her reality. You're telling her, "I see you, I hear you, and what you're feeling makes sense." In that moment, she feels understood, and that's when trust deepens. That's when she starts to think, "This man really gets me," and that's powerful. Now, you might be thinking, "But wait, does that mean I just have to agree with her emotions all the time?" No, this isn't about mindlessly nodding along or becoming a yes man. It's about showing empathy for what she's feeling without dismissing her experience. Here's what you need to understand. Being understood is a core emotional need for women. It's not just a preference, it's something they crave at a deep psychological level. If you meet that need, she'll be drawn to you in ways you've never experienced before. If you don't, her attraction will slowly erode. She won't even know why at first. She'll just feel disconnected, distant, and eventually she'll start looking for that connection elsewhere, whether it's with a friend, a coworker, or someone new. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly listened to her? Not with the intent to respond, but with the intent to understand. Most men think they're good listeners, but the truth is, they're not listening to understand. They're listening to fix, or they're listening to defend themselves. You've probably been in a conversation where she's upset, and instead of focusing on what she's saying, you're thinking, "How do I explain my side of this?" Or you're preparing your next argument in your head even before she's done talking. That's not listening. Here's the Stoic approach. Drop your defenses. Stop trying to be right. Your goal isn't to win the conversation. Your goal is to understand her emotional reality. Here's how you do it. First, reflect her emotions. Simple phrases like, "I can see why that upset you," or "That must have been really hard," go a long way. Second, ask questions. And I don't mean interrogate her. Ask questions that show genuine curiosity, like, "What do you think would help?" Or "How did that make you feel?" And finally, don't argue back. The moment you get defensive, you're no longer listening. You've made it about you instead of her. Think about it like this. When she opens up to you emotionally, it's like she's handing you a fragile gift. If you dismiss it, interrupt, or argue, you've just dropped that gift on the floor. But if you handle it with care, if you show her you're genuinely interested in understanding her, she'll keep coming back to you with that trust. Here's the irony. The more you make her feel understood, the fewer emotional outbursts you'll have to deal with. She won't need to keep repeating herself or escalating her emotions to get your attention. Why? because she'll already know you get it. Let me tell you something most men don't realize. Women open up more to the people who make them feel safe to do so. That's why she might vent to her best friend more than you, or why she seems distant after you dismiss her emotions. It's not because she doesn't want to share with you, it's because she's not sure if you actually care to understand. So the next time she says, "You don't listen to me," don't argue, don't defend yourself. Pause and ask yourself, am I really seeing her right now? Because that's what she's looking for, not someone who solves her problems, not someone who tells her she's overreacting. She wants someone who sees her, all of her. And when you become that man, when you show her through your words and actions that you're paying attention to her emotional world, that's when everything changes. She'll start to trust you in ways she never has before. She'll feel safer with you, she'll respect you more, and she'll desire you more. Because here's the truth. Most men overlook this. Women don't fall in love with men who are perfect. They fall in love with men who understand them. And the moment you pass that test, you become irreplaceable. So, are you ready to stop missing the point? Are you ready to see her? Because if you are, you'll build a connection that goes far beyond attraction. You'll become the man who doesn't just hear her, but the man who truly gets her, and that's the man she never forgets. So we've made it halfway through, and before diving into weakness number 3 of women, can I ask for a quick favor? Just hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the latest videos from this channel. All right, I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's keep going. Number 3, confidence attracts, but control repels. All right, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood traits in relationships: confidence. Every man has heard it before. Women love confident men. And it's true. Confidence is magnetic. It signals strength, security, and purpose. It tells the world, and her, that you know who you are and what you stand for. But here's where most men mess it up. They confuse confidence with control. They think being confident means always being in charge, calling the shots, and having the final say. But let me tell you right now, the moment your confidence crosses the line into control, you're done. Because control doesn't attract, it repels. Let's break this down. Confidence is about leading with strength and clarity while respecting her autonomy. It's about knowing your worth without needing to prove it by controlling someone else. Control, on the other hand, is about forcing your will onto her. It leaves no room for her voice, her choices, or her independence. And when a woman feels controlled, she starts pulling away fast. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not controlling, I just want things to go a certain way. But control can be subtle. It often shows up in ways you don't even realize. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've planned a date night, but she tells you she wants to spend time with her friends instead. How do you respond? A confident man says, "I'll miss you, but go ahead. We'll catch up later." A controlling man says, "Why are you ditching me? You need to prioritize us." Do you see the difference? The first response shows self-assurance. You're secure enough to let her have her freedom without feeling threatened. The second response reeks of insecurity. It sends the message that your sense of worth is tied to her availability, and trust me, women pick up on this immediately. Here's what you need to understand. Women don't want a man who dominates them. They want a man who leads without taking away their freedom. Think about it. In today's world, women value their independence more than ever. They want partners, not possessors. They want men who respect their choices, not men who make them feel trapped. So, if you're the kind of guy who constantly checks in on her, questions her whereabouts, or expects her to prioritize you at all times, you're pushing her away. Why? Because control is fear in disguise. It's rooted in insecurity. It says, "I don't trust you, I'm afraid of losing you, so I need to control you to feel safe." But a stoic man, he's not afraid of losing anyone. He knows his worth. He knows that love isn't something you can control or force. It's something that flows freely when both people feel respected and valued. Because confidence makes her feel safe and desired, while control makes her feel suffocated and trapped. And the moment she senses control creeping in, her defenses go up. She starts to pull away, not because she doesn't want a strong man, but because she wants a man who's strong enough to respect her autonomy. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean you should be passive or indifferent. A confident man still leads. He makes decisions. He takes initiative, but he does it with consideration and respect. For example, let's say you're deciding where to go for dinner. A passive man might say, "I don't care, you pick." That's not attractive. It shows a lack of decisiveness. A controlling man might say, "We're going here, and that's final." That's not attractive either. It shows a lack of respect for her input. But a confident man, he might say, "I know you've been craving Italian. How about we try that new spot downtown?" See the difference? You're leading, but you're still considering her preferences. You're making decisions, but you're not shutting her out of the process. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're driving a car, and she's in the passenger seat. A controlling man grips the wheel so tightly that there's no room for anyone else. He dictates the route, the speed, and even the music. A passive man, on the other hand, lets go of the wheel entirely and says, "You take over. I don't want to be responsible." But a confident man keeps his hands on the wheel, but he listens. He checks in. Are we still good with this route? He adjusts if needed. If you want to stop, just let me know. That's the balance you want to strike in a relationship. Lead with strength, but leave room for her voice. The more freedom you give her, the more she'll want to stay. Women don't want a man who's constantly hovering over them, questioning their choices or demanding their attention. They want a man who's confident enough to let them be themselves. Think about this. What's more attractive? A man who panics when things don't go his way, or a man who adapts, stays calm, and keeps moving forward? Confidence isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about staying grounded no matter what happens. Let me give you a final example to drive this home. Imagine she's upset because something didn't go her way. Maybe she had a tough day at work, or a friend let her down. A controlling man would try to steer her emotions. "You're overreacting, it's not a big deal." A passive man would avoid the conversation altogether. "I don't want to deal with this right now." But a confident man, he listens, he validates her feelings, and he says something like, "I can see why that would bother you. I'm here if you want to talk more about it." He's steady, he's present, and he's not trying to control her emotions. He's simply being there, and that's what makes all the difference. Women are constantly assessing whether the man in front of them is someone they can trust to handle life's challenges without losing his cool. They're looking for strength, not dominance. So, if you want to be the man she respects, admires, and desires, remember this: confidence attracts, control repels. Be the man who leads with clarity and calm. Be the man who respects her freedom while offering her security. Be the man who knows his worth without needing to control her to prove it. When you do, she won't just be drawn to you, she'll want to stay with you. Number 4, her desire for security is a hidden driver. Let me tell you something most men overlook. A woman's need for security isn't just a preference. It's a primal need rooted in instinct. It's not about money or status. It's about feeling safe, emotionally, mentally, in a way that allows her to let her guard down and truly be herself. And here's the thing, she might not even realize this need herself, but her actions will always reveal it. When a woman feels secure with you, she'll open up, trust you, and give you her loyalty in ways that go far beyond physical attraction. But if she feels unstable, uncertain, or emotionally unsafe, she'll start to pull away, slowly at first, then all at once. Here's what you need to understand. Security governs everything. Her choices, behaviors, and even how she shows up in a relationship are all influenced by how safe she feels with you. And if you're not providing that security, she's going to feel off balance. And the worst part, she might not even be able to explain why. She'll say things like, "Something just feels off," or "I don't know if I can trust you." And you'll be sitting there thinking, "But I haven't done anything wrong." Exactly. You haven't done anything. You haven't shown her that you're someone she can rely on, emotionally, mentally, and physically, when life gets tough. Let's break this down into 3 parts, because security isn't just one thing. It's emotional, mental, and physical. And if you want to be the man she trusts, respects, and desires, you've got to provide all 3. First up, emotional security. We already talked about emotional validation, but let me say this again. Women need to feel safe expressing their emotions. If she's constantly worried that you'll judge her, dismiss her, or get defensive every time she opens up, she'll start to withdraw emotionally. It doesn't matter how strong the attraction is. If she can't trust you with her feelings, she won't trust you with her heart. Providing emotional security doesn't mean you agree with everything she says. It doesn't mean you have to be a therapist or a mind reader. It's about letting her know that her emotions are valid, even if they don't make sense to you. For example, if she's upset because she feels left out by her friends, don't say, "You're overreacting." Instead, say something like, "That must feel really lonely. I'm sorry you're going through that." You're not fixing her problem. You're simply showing her that you see her, that her feelings matter. And when she knows she can come to you without fear of judgment, she'll start to feel emotionally safe with you. And that's when trust deepens. That's when she starts to think, "This is the man I can rely on." Now let's move on to mental security. This one is huge. Mental security is about consistency. It's about being a man of your word. When you say you'll do something, you do it. When you make a commitment, you follow through. Sounds simple, right? But you'd be surprised how many men fail this test. A lot of guys think it's enough to say the right things in the moment, but words without actions mean nothing. Think about it from her perspective. If you're constantly saying one thing and doing another, how can she trust you? If you make promises and don't keep them, how can she rely on you when things get tough? What is reality? She's always watching, not in a paranoid way, but in a subconscious, instinctual way. She's assessing whether you're someone she can trust to handle life's challenges, whether you'll stick to your word when things get hard, whether you'll stay grounded when the world feels chaotic. And here's the harsh truth. If you're inconsistent, she'll start to lose respect for you. It doesn't matter how charming you are, how good-looking you are, or how successful you are. Inconsistency kills trust. So if you say you're going to be there at 7 p.m., be there at 7 p.m. If you say you'll take care of something, take care of it. If you make a promise, no matter how small, keep it. Because when she knows you're reliable, her mental security with you skyrockets. She stops questioning your intentions. She stops worrying about whether you're trustworthy, and instead, she relaxes. She feels safe. Finally, let's talk about physical security. Now, I'm not talking about being a bodybuilder or a superhero. This isn't about fighting off attackers or lifting heavy objects. It's about how you carry yourself in the world. Are you calm and composed when life gets chaotic? Or do you panic, lash out, or shut down the moment things don't go your way? A woman wants to know that you're someone who can handle the storms of life without crumbling. She wants to feel safe in your presence, not just from external threats, but from the unpredictability of life itself. Think about this. If everything in her life feels like it's falling apart, her job, her family, her friendships, she's going to look to you to see how you handle adversity. If you stay calm, grounded and composed, she'll feel like she can weather any storm with you. But if you panic, get defensive or lose control, she'll feel like she has to carry the weight of the world alone. Here's a simple example. Let's say you're both running late to an event and things aren't going as planned. She's stressed out, frustrated and overwhelmed. A panicked man would make things worse. He'd start snapping, blaming or shutting down. But a confident, grounded man would say something like, "It's okay. We'll get there when we get there. We'll figure it out." Those words seem small, but they carry massive weight. They show her that you're steady, that you're not rattled by life's little inconveniences, and that's what makes her feel safe. This is what you need to know. Women crave security in every sense of the word, emotional, mental, and physical. When you provide that, her trust and loyalty deepen in ways you can't imagine. But if you fail to provide it, she'll start to question everything. She won't feel safe, she won't feel stable, and over time, she'll start pulling away, not because she doesn't love you, but because she doesn't feel secure with you. So ask yourself, are you providing emotional security by validating her feelings without judgment? Are you providing mental security by being consistent and reliable? Are you providing physical security by staying calm and composed even when life gets messy? Because when you do, something incredible happens. She stops looking for security elsewhere. She stops questioning your intentions, and she starts to trust you, not just with her heart, but with her entire being. And that's the foundation of any lasting relationship. Number 5, she is torn between stability and excitement. Here's a paradox you need to understand. If you want to truly connect with a woman, she craves both stability and excitement. And yes, it sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. She wants a man who feels like home, solid, dependable, a rock she can lean on when life gets overwhelming. But she also wants passion, spontaneity, and a spark that keeps her intrigued. She wants both security and unpredictability. And here's where most men get it wrong. Some guys become the safe choice, the dependable, reliable guy who always shows up, always says the right thing but never surprises her. He's the guy she respects but doesn't desire. Over time, she gets bored. She starts to feel restless, like something's missing. Then there's the other extreme, the exciting choice, the adventurous guy who's unpredictable, passionate, and always chasing the next thrill. He keeps her on her toes, but he lacks consistency. He's exciting but exhausting. Over time, she realizes she can't rely on him when things get tough. And here's the hard truth. Neither extreme works. If you're too safe, she'll start to crave excitement elsewhere. If you're too chaotic, she'll crave stability from someone else. So what's the solution? Balance. She doesn't want a man who's one-dimensional. She wants a man who can be both her anchor and her adventure, the man who makes her feel safe but also keeps her guessing. Think about it. She wants to know that she can rely on you when life gets messy, that you'll be there, steady and grounded, no matter what happens. But she also wants to feel that rush of excitement, the butterflies, the thrill of the unexpected, the sense that you still have the power to sweep her off her feet. It's about being consistent but unpredictable. You don't need to turn your life into a circus to keep things exciting. It's the small, thoughtful surprises that make the biggest impact. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've been in a routine with her, same conversations, same dates, same routines. And while routines provide stability, they can also start to feel stale. One day, instead of your usual dinner spot, you text her out of the blue. Pack a bag. We're going on a road trip, no questions, just trust me. Do you see what happens there? You're still the stable, reliable guy she knows she can count on, but you've just injected a spark of spontaneity into the relationship. You've created an experience that she'll remember. That's the magic of balancing stability and excitement. You don't need to be unpredictable all the time, just enough to remind her that there's still mystery, still passion, still a reason for her heart to race when she's with you. And this doesn't just apply to grand gestures. It's about the little things too. Maybe you've fallen into the habit of always texting her good morning and good night. It's sweet, but predictable. One day, instead of the usual, you send her a voice note saying something unexpected. "Hey, I was just thinking about you. You've been on my mind all day, and I can't wait to see you tonight." It's simple, but it hits differently. Remember this: predictability kills attraction. If she knows exactly what you're going to say, do, and feel every single time, the spark fades. But if you keep her guessing just a little, if you remain consistent in your values and actions but unpredictable in the way you show up emotionally, that's when you become irreplaceable. Now, don't confuse unpredictability with chaos. You're not creating drama or being reckless. You're simply keeping things fresh, showing her that there's always more to discover about you. Because here's the thing about women: they're always assessing, always looking for depth. They want to feel like they're peeling back layers of you over time, not that they've got you all figured out after the first few months. So how do you strike that balance? Create routines, but break them occasionally. Maybe you've got a weekly date night. Great, that's stability. But once in a while, skip the usual restaurant and take her to a live music show instead, or surprise her with a picnic in the park. Stick to your principles, but throw in surprises. She needs to know that your core values don't change, that you're reliable and grounded, but she also needs those moments of surprise that make her heart skip a beat. Here's another example to drive this home. Let's say you're a man who values fitness and health. She knows you're consistent with your morning workout and meal prep. That's part of who you are, and she respects that. But one weekend, instead of your usual gym routine, you tell her, "Let's skip the workout today. I've got something better planned." And you take her on a spontaneous hike to a beautiful lookout point. You pack her favorite snacks, you bring a blanket, and you sit there together, enjoying the view. You're still grounded, still consistent, but you've added a layer of excitement, of unpredictability that keeps her intrigued. And the reality is, she wants both. She wants to know that you're not going anywhere, that you're solid, reliable, and steady. But she also wants to feel that rush of excitement, that sense of adventure, that thrill that comes from being with a man who still surprises her. When you master that balance, you stop being one of two extremes. You become the man she can't let go of, the man she trusts, respects, and desires, because you're both her safe harbor and her wild ocean. So let me ask you this: are you the man who's only providing stability? Are you the man who's only providing excitement? Or are you the man who can balance both? Because when you become both, you're no longer just the man she's with. You're the man she chooses over and over again. You're her anchor when life gets overwhelming, and you're her adventure when life gets too predictable. That's the balance she's looking for, and when you strike it, that's when she looks at you and thinks, "I don't need anyone else. He's everything I want." And trust me, that's a feeling she'll never walk away from. These 5 weaknesses aren't flaws to exploit. They're truths to understand. Women are not puzzles to solve or challenges to conquer. They're human beings with emotional needs that run deeper than most men realize. And when you understand these truths, you don't just improve your relationships, you transform yourself. You become stronger, more grounded, more confident. You stop chasing validation from others and start leading your own life with clarity and purpose. And here's the most important part: when you step into that strength, women can't help but notice. They respect it, they admire it, they're drawn to it. Not because you're perfect, but because you're steady. You're a man who listens, who understands, and who stands firm without controlling. So ask yourself, are you reactive to life, or are you making intentional choices about who you are and how you show up? The man who masters himself becomes the man others trust and desire. Thank you for watching Stoic Love Lessons. If this resonated with you, don't stop here. Subscribe, explore more of our content, and let's continue this Stoic journey together. Let's build better relationships and stronger men together. And tell me, what's been your biggest struggle in understanding women? Let's have that conversation in the comments. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and stay stoic. See you in the next video.